Hello. Today we're going to talk about stress and anxiety due to difficult times. Now, stress is a little different than anxiety. Stress can be talked about regarding the medical field and emotion, as well as psychology and philosophy. But because stress involves a certain tension and emotions, and could be even in medical sense, could be in positive stress you feel to play sports, and might be a good thing, the motivation. However, this is not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about anxiety and worry. And stress can be the synonym for that as well. But because it might be mixed up, like always, we have to define our terms before we start. We don't want to be go off the track. So we will talk about the anxiety and worry and fretting due to difficult times. Now, we'll cover both psychology and philosophy, dealing different approaches. And we're going to try and do it clearly and slowly so we don't lose the attention or the comprehension of our audience and for ourselves and for myself. Because we again are talking about something important. Now, we kind of want to finish up that thought. We kind of want to put ourselves in a meditative state. In other words, simply being calm and relaxed and focused, so we can learn better. Simply that reason. So we can understand and have a clarity of what we're talking about. Now, from a psychology point of view, we see there's, also as a general point of view, we have many definitions of stress, and we have different types of stress and anxiety and worry and fretting. And we're going to be talking about the negative side effects of it. But as you can see from a medical viewpoint, psychological viewpoint, and a philosophical viewpoint, there's many different types of anxiety, nervousness, tension, confusion. It can lead to confusion. It can lead to despair. The causes of anxiety can simply be doing something positive. Mathematicians trying to get the right answer might have anxiety over it, not being able to get the answer. Their cause. It's beyond stress. It's an anxiety, a worry, and it becomes negative, even though they're trying to do a positive speculations, positive acts. We have a nurse working in the front of the pandemic, a supervisor of a emergency room, very astute woman, became so stressed and formed anxiety and worry, and became so despair of seeing things around her that she committed suicide recently. We talked about this in another session, an earlier session. However, today we're going to talk about worry and anxiety on a more universal level. But after we talk about it, we're also going to give ideas for application, ideas to counteract this anxiety and worry, which we know that it causes, like I said, confusion, unfocusing, physical attributes that are negative, high blood pressure, heart disease. We can form a subconscious level of anxiety that hiding something from our consciousness, some event that happened, but when some stimulation comes around that reminds those emotions, they come back and they're projected, possibly displaced. So that's another type of anxiety result in a negative way. So there should be a whole university just talking about anxiety and classified, or perhaps stress, combine that stress with anxiety. And there'd be plenty to talk about. For years, and contemplate and study. Just that alone. So we aren't going to cover all of this today, but it is a complex issue, and there's many different reasons for it. Now, getting back to something positive, like that nurse was doing a positive event, a positive thing. She had no real complex problem. She was fighting a virus pandemic. There was no moral ground to complex the issue. For instance, if you were at war and you had anxiety, there might be a human difficulty whether or not you should kill, whether or not it was worth it, of that kind of nature. But this pandemic, fighting against the virus, that wasn't the problem. The problem was exhaustion compounded with the anxiety of seeing people passing away in front of you time after time. So there was multiple reasons for this alone, and every type of despair and frustration, there's different causes. So it becomes very complex, the reasons for anxiety. We see that decision-making can cause anxiety, simple decision-making, as we try to pick something out of two choices. as soon as we go to choice A, we're drawn away from choice B. And although choice A might be a good thing, also choice B might be a good thing for us as well. But sometimes we can't have our cake and eat it too, as they say. And which, even though there are two positive choices to make that would bring us betterment, going away from choice A, B rather, in order to take choice A, we have little frustration and anxiety, and until we make that choice and accept it, you'll have this conflict which could cause frustration if it's not dealt with properly. If we do not have a good viewpoint on realizing that you must let go of one in order to get another. Sometimes we get greedy, and that can cause frustration. And what can frustration bring us? Well, it can bring us anger. We can lash out. We can suppress that anger, and it can come out other ways later on in our life. And we can just go into despair, become depressed, lethargic, moody, non-motivated. So again, these are all psychological things to discuss. So that the whole complexity of this word anxiety is immense. And examples, one more example, that mathematicians, like I said, trying to get an answer can become frustrated. And even though they're trying to do something good, they can end up going into despair, not finding the answer, and become very negative and take over their life. And it has been. I've studied some mathematicians. I see this as a problem. Even though they've done great for humanity, they feel as if they're not worthy, go into deep depression. And when you are confused and in deep depression, despair, you're not thinking clearly. You have to have a positive outlook for clarity, for focus. So it's important that we don't stay in that realm. So let's go on to a deeper understanding and some of the positive applications, certainly in psychology in the medical field, that give you ways to combat it. Also, they go in deeper to the side effects that can be very negative. But we all know some of them ourselves. Again, it's immense. I like to think of, as far as talk about philosophy a little bit, I like to think of stress or anxiety as an inflammation of the mind, and not a good thing. And also, it brings down the immunity of one's health. Not only the mental state and the physical state, but in our movement forward toward a betterment and well-being of our thinking apparatus, how we make further choices. So some of the things that we do that make common sense, and we have these sayings that we say to perhaps our children. We say, time out. But if it gets to be a violent situation or an angry situation, we put our children in time out, which means you put them sometimes you put them in a corner or their room for a while to calm down. We tell people to calm down when they get overactive and stressed. We tell them to sit down. We tell them to take a deep breath. We tell them to count to 10. We have these common sense sayings that are exactly that. They're common sense. They make sense to do that. And what are we really saying? We're telling someone, or even ourselves, we're telling ourselves to relax, get focused, get on the right track, think clearly once again. So why do we do that? Because not only does it make sense, but it's effective. But philosophically, going a little deeper, we're trying to find our true self, as they say in the East, a true self, a level of calmness where we can think clearly and focused and do some positive reflections on our movements and choices. And that's why we're trying to calm down today. We talk about a meditative state of talking, of communication, discussion. Especially when the more important the issue, the calmer and the more focused one should be. So when we leave that state, we often are in the state of anxiety, which raises the confusion level. So a good application, a wise application for one who understands this issue which we're talking about, and that's what wisdom is, understanding and finding the right and wrong approach of conduct and what we're doing and choices. So what we see here is the first thing to do if you have anxiety or you bring yourself in an anxious state is to relax and calm down. Think clearly. Now, there's several easy ways to do this. I personally like to go in my room, turn off the lights, not to fall asleep, but to just have clear thoughts, relax. Now, if it's a really confused state, I will count the positive things that I have. Go right back to the source. If I'm not confused, something traumatic is before me. What do I have? What do I have? Well, I have my life. I have my eyes. I have my health, generally good health. My mind thinks clearly. I'm able to think critically, know what's right and wrong. I have a good foundation. I've studied principles and value system. Therefore, go back to the values that you have and start from those values. What is right? What is wrong? How do you live a virtuous life, a good for yourself, good for your health, good for your well-being, good for your mental state? What brings clarity? What principles can I rely on that I've thought about, that I've contemplated about, and come out with some conclusion? The evidence through reason have proven to be correct, at least correct enough to move forward on these, and they're stable. Stability is a key to your principles. These principles have formed your habits of application and become a part of your character. Therefore, if you have this ability to think clearly, you have the most important aspects of living. For we are here on earth to examine ourselves and the world around us, and to make ourselves better so we can enjoy life. We're not here to be persecuted or persecute ourselves. We're here to enjoy life, given the opportunity to grow. And how we do that is take the images and observations that we see and feel from our senses and form a hypothesis where we make a conclusion. We put things to the test through experience and observation and through learning. And we draw conclusions from the observations around life in front of us. And so doing, we take these conclusions, and if they work for us and the people around us, we move forward. We apply these conclusions in our daily life, and they work. They make life easier. We also study. People in history teach us what mistakes were made by other people. So with these elements, our ability to do these things, we move forward and flow forward and learn how to live life gracefully. And that's what philosophy teaches us to do. Whether it's Eastern philosophy, using different terminology and different methodology, or Western philosophy, as well as others elements such as there's a whole type of philosophy in Africa that deals with more intuitive state. I don't want to get into it right now, but there is ways to go deeper methodologies into our decision making when we have anxiety and stress. No. Another key element when you're in this state of relaxation, or what brings you into a relaxation, is count the blessings, which is another saying, count your blessings. But in a more philosophical or analytical way of saying that is to see what you have, think of what you have, and start from there and feel good about yourself. That the most important things are choices and opportunities, and the freedom to accept things as ideas or reject them. These are what we have. And if you have that, then you should utilize them to make yourself calm and relaxed. Because this is an amazing situation. We have the opportunity to somehow, we're born lucky, call it a systematic amount of events that cause that. And that in itself was a great opportunity, great event, a positive thing to be able to be put forth on this earth in order to grow and improve and make it flow gently, beautifully through art. Your life can be a piece of art. Now you can always pass away. You will pass away eventually. So why not have two lives or two events happen? Why only have one? When you're in despair, you want to reject life. You want to be negative about it to the point where you may want to commit suicide or reject it through substance abuse because the hurt or not wanting to deal with life. It's true that anxiety is a part of life. Whether you're doing something good or not, you will have anxiety. That is a part of activity. That is part of growth. It's part of growth, part of doing something good, part of being a hero. You're still going to have anxiety. That's just a part of it. It's a matter of how you handle it that will make you different. Now, we don't have a lot more than choices and decision making. That is given to us free. That is called free will, free choices. That is the true freedom of philosophy, of understanding the inner self, the true self. We have the ability to make choices and decisions and have an opinion. No one can take that away from us. They can take our body, they can take our car, they can take our family, they can take away everything. But what we really have, call our own, is our correct decision making, our character, our value system. Now, think of it as you may. I know a lot of us have put our time and effort in external things, building houses and spending time raising a family and building things and yards, working yards and fruit fields, whatever fruit trees, whatever you did, you have to have a good philosophy about it and realize that these do not belong to you. Something greater than you can come along and take it. It could be a storm. No matter how prepared you are, it could be a big storm and take those external things away from you. In case in front of us, a pandemic, a flu pandemic, sweeping the world from country to country, taking lives away, taking children, taking our wives taking our loved ones. This is not the first pandemic. It's not the last. If you study history, you will understand a pandemic, how it works, how people react. So I suggest you go back and learn what to be expected. That's where history helps us to learn and to deal with things. It wasn't anybody's fault. People thought it was their fault. They were superstitious. They blamed the gods or the god. They blamed minorities. They scapegoat everything. It's a terrible thing. Ignorance. It's a terrible thing. If they didn't really know in the 1300s when the Black Plague spread throughout Europe, they didn't understand that it had nothing to do with anyone. It was just a flu bug. Came from fleas, biting fleas, and got into the rats and spread. So we here in the current pandemic don't have the answers. We seem to think we know the answers, but if we knew the answers, we would have been able to apply a effective way to deter it. However, we did the best we can, or we try to do the best we can. Now we always can get better at it for the next one, or even during it. But the anxiety can bring down your immune system so that you will actually get the flu. The one thing we can do is stay away from social distancing. We know that. We have learned a few things. And the other thing, the main thing is the immune system can be brought down, I believe, be brought down to 10% of your health. In other words, you might be at 100%, but because of anxiety, your whole immune system can lose 90% of your health, and you'll be down to 10%. But I think that a normal anxiety can bring you down to 50%. And I think that can be validated pretty easily. So it is important. And that's something we can do. We can bring that up. And the decision making can bring that to a positive level, so that we can think clearly again, and we can start making better choices. We can start taking the vitamins and minerals and proper nutrients to raise our immune system even more. We can get exercise, we can get sunlight, we can do some of the things that would be more physical once we have a positive mental state. So getting that positive state starts philosophically, or true understanding, to become our true self, is just to relax and count the positive things we have in life. And get out of that despair that people get from frustration at this time period. Being on the front line is an extreme case. When we see fellow people pass away, that's extreme. But being able having to be quarantined is also, but not as bad. We see domestic violence going up at a time like this. That's not good. Not only you're bringing yourself in a level of less anxiety, but bringing the people around you at less anxiety as well, your immediate friends. So understanding, discussion, conversation, relaxing, even meditating together in a sense of variety of ways, or just being yourself, getting a calm state, talking about it, sitting around the table and explaining how important it is to not get on each other's nerves. I think parents do this all the time with children, and we have to do this between ourselves as well. Realizing this is a tense situation, therefore everyone should watch themselves and conduct themselves with grace and relaxation, gentleness and forgiveness in a time like this. It's a temporary situation, so that might be expressed so it'd be easier for people to understand and to take hold. They feel they have to be gentle the rest of their life, they might hesitate, although I would suggest that. But it's a good time to learn from this as well, so we can take this hardship as an opportunity to increase our fortitude against anxiety. Now, when we get back to what we have and what we own, there's a certain, in the Eastern thought, they talk about attachment. We are too attached to the real world. So that what I spoke about earlier, about what we really have as our own, is this free will, the free will to choose, free will what to think about. We have to let go of external things that aren't ours. We have a realization that they're not ours. So when someone passes away, we must realize that they are not our possession. Sure, we've benefited from knowing them, but being with them, but this is a part of life that we have to understand, that we're attached to these external things, and as well as people and animals. And as sad as it is, when the time comes, we must understand that we are attached to that person. We are attached to the emotions of that person, and we must let go. Attachment is something that is a part of greed. And it's not just money, it's external things. It's hard to let go when you've put in so much time in something. If you've put in building your house by yourself many years and spent many hours going out and making the money in order to buy the house, it's a tragedy. However, it's not the tragedy of losing your mind. And anxiety, frustration, and anger is a part of losing your mind. When you lash out in anger and hurt somebody, that's losing your mind, your true self. Now, if you haven't realized that what you have is, and what is free, and what people can't take from you, are these choices of foundations you can have. You can build up principles that you can rely on. You can have self-examination, and you can learn about yourself, your inner self, and your inner decision making, and through tools such as reason and common sense. Then you should take this opportunity to say, these are the worthwhile things. How do I conduct my life, right or wrong? What emphasis should I put? What value system should I put on external items, external parts of life that I don't have complete control? I like to think of it as percentages. You have a certain percentage that might be, say that you have, what percentage of yours is a boat out in sea when you know that the risks of it disappearing are great compared to a person you are close to, you take care of, say an animal, you have direct contact with that animal every day. So the chances of that animal surviving in a storm is greater than a boat out at sea. So you can do that to all external items and say, well, I have a better control of things. However, I don't have complete control of them. So you can judge your reaction to these external complexities. If you lose the boat, you can shrug your shoulders. You can say, I'm not going to grieve if I understood that I was taking a risk. I've heard that said by a close friend of mine when they lost something, somebody stole something. We're in the business of a high-risk business. I understood that before I got into it. Therefore, I'm not that stressed or frustrated over it. Certainly, I'm upset, but I'm not going to let it affect my inner being or become angry or go into despair. Now, if that same person lost their daughter, I don't believe she would be ready for that same opinion of it. So we kind of put value systems on what we know that is close to us and what isn't. So it's just a matter of going one step further within and understanding. It's not like we don't do it already. And it's kind of hard to do that, to realize, well, we have really nothing. Now, somebody who in total despair actually thinks that life is not worth living. Total despair. And that's when you give up your life. You say, I don't want to deal with it. It's all hurt. It's all despairing. They put their value system, they didn't really go that deep in order to put a value system on themselves. They feel as if life isn't worth living, even though sometimes they're heroes. They're doing something great. The women and men on the front line of this pandemic are putting their life on. They're doing great things. They're heroes. We must always show appreciation. I love to see the appreciation showed toward doctors and nurses on a time like this by other people. And I've seen a lot of that, and it's wonderful, and the more the better, because we all are connected, and we must show appreciation. If we were in their shoes, we'd want to do unto others as you would do to yourself. So in this case, that moral code, which we kind of asked in other talks to accept for a while, would come in handy, because we need to applaud these people so they don't get into despair. So we also have to applaud ourselves as well. Life is worth something, even if it's an opportunity to find out what is good, what is bad, what is good about this life. Going back, if you hurt so badly that you're in despair and you're at a point where you think nothing is worthwhile in this world, then go right back to the sources. Take what you have, what's given to you, and that is the ability to choose, the ability to have free will, at least making choices and decisions and opinions, moving toward an idea, moving away from a concept, creating an idea. The supreme product of energy is an idea, according to Plato. I think that's a great quote. Socrates, father of philosophy, generally understood to be the father of philosophy, Western philosophy, said a life that is not worth living unless it's has self-examination. And so that's what we're doing here. We're self-examining ourselves. And that's what the opportunity of life gives us. We are always going to pass away. There's no escape from that. So why rush it? Why pick up the pieces? Why not pick up the pieces? See what you have. See what you don't have. See what you have more control of. See what you have less control of. The less control things you have, you do the best you can at keeping them. If it's a boat, you learn how to fix the sails or tune the engine and have a kicker on the side so the one engine goes, you can have a smaller one to bring you in, reserve. There's ways to improve your situation on a fragile external substance like a boat. And if the storm comes, you say, well, I didn't have complete control. I mean, I can't really, I did the best I can under the circumstances. And be pleased with that. Be pleased with that. That's what we're here to do, is to do the best we can with given what we have. But if you lose external things and they come to a close, like family, and you have to really say, well, go back and say, well, wait a minute. How can I deal with this? How can I deal with this loss? And you have to go to the true self, the inner self, your inner value system, your inner principles. And one of the ways to learn to deal with it is to realize that they don't really belong to you. You can do the best you can, raise them the best you can, but there are storms that come along in life that will take them away as well. There's bugs and flu, pandemics that could take them away. And it's sad, tragic, but you can't let that tragedy grip you and confuse you and make you unclear, because then you're not doing the best you can. The best you can is realizing that's part of life. That wasn't really given to you, just like the boat. it's when you go deeper into understanding about truth and reality and wisdom, understanding what is right and wrong about this life, about how we act toward each other, we realize that what we have in total control is our choices and our ability to have self-examination, making conclusion, having a foundation of principles, taking a foundation of principles that you feel are right or wrong, and making them actions on what you do. If you believe that you should be honest, then be honest in your actions toward others. And in so doing, build a character of habits and build your character surrounding those principles. We call that moral compass. And so with that comes a realization that we shouldn't attach ourselves completely to what we don't have total control of. We don't even have total control of our own lives and our own health and our own death. So how can we have control of others? How can we think that we were given that control? It's only a reality. It's nothing more than that. It's about accepting reality. Now, some people might think that's not too cool, you know, that's not great because we want more than that. Or perhaps we spent more time on other things and nobody told us about it. That's probably more of the case. Certainly we're going to get frustrated if we didn't know that we expect everything was in, if you get money, or if you'd be happy. That would give you complete happiness. External things gives me complete happiness. You're told that often by some people. So when you find out that is not the case, and you're frustrated and angry. But if someone told you early in life that the true value should be your decision making, your character, so you can move smoothly through life because you understand these things. You don't put a value where you'll be hurt all the time. Then when these events happen, you won't be as frustrated. You shouldn't blame people, blame life for that. That's how life is, and it's still an opportunity. It's an opportunity to go through life fluently and with deep satisfaction, a very deep satisfaction. The fact that you understand how life works, that you can grow, and you can have free will, free decision making. It's a great opportunity. And this is the great reward of life, because you can share that with others as well and allow them to go through life with a certain humanity about them, certain wisdom about them. You can teach others, and you can see how they grow and not get frustrated, not get angry. We do this all the time with our children. We tell them we give all the common sense sayings, and they thank us eventually, most of them. So we must do that to ourselves. We must thank ourselves for being astute and criticizing ourselves, being aware, being focused, and coming to the realization what life is about. The true meaning of life is to better yourself and better the people around you. Gaining a good value system. One that has been shown to be right through reason and testing, not through superstition, but test it. Test it for yourself, examine it. You don't need any special kind of training or degrees or anything to become wiser, one with understanding about life. And that's what we're here to do. And everyone can do this. Everyone should do this. Everyone should become wiser. Everyone should become a philosopher, a lover of wisdom. That's what it means. Doesn't mean you have to have this or that talk using a lot of big academic words. Don't be fooled. Don't be hijacked. Don't let the words be hijacked to confuse you so they can control you, or whatever the case, or you can be controlled. Go to the root of the terminology. All cultures, all had wise people who understood how to understand things. Take the time to think things out. Deal with life so you can flow through it gracefully with a good attitude. Certainly show concern about things. Help out when you can. Do the best you can. And be deeply satisfied. Peaceful. Thank you.